Pandemic disrupting countless things in our lives, among them child adoptions.
From safety protocols and financial hardships created by the pandemic to strict travel restrictions, many families have found a wrench thrown into their plans to adopt, taking longer than expected. Joining us this morning, Nicole Which is the executive director of the Adoption Consultancy and host of Adopting, the podcast. Good morning to you, Nicole. How you doing?
I'm great. Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thank you so much. So talk to us first and foremost about some of the biggest challenges that families are facing as they try to adopt a newborn.
Well, you already alluded to a couple of them, from travel restrictions to changing hospital policies to learning the technology, to do things virtually. Those have been some of the big ones. Right now, several months into the pandemic, we did see the adoption numbers drop. So they seem to be rebounding a bit back to normal, but there is sort of a backlog of parents who are looking to become adoptive parents that the agencies are facing right now.
All right, so as people are watching this and trying to find ways that they can grow their family, is there a way to, I guess, work the system to its best of its abilities and get directly to those who can help them? So how do you work or navigate the system?
Yeah, the approach that I take with my clients is that we get them out there and activated with multiple different agencies. So that way there are a lot more opportunities for them so that they can find the right match within a more reasonable amount of time than people who are just, say, signed up with one agency. So that's one approach people can take. Some people do outreach on their own to try to find a match with an expectant mom, and that can help speed things up too when done in conjunction with other approaches.
So, there's a lot of different families looking to grow, right? There's a married family, a single parent, LGBTQ family. There's so many different varieties here. Where do you see the process beginning for some of those families who may be lost?
Yeah, it is a complicated process for sure, which is why I'm here to guide people through it. So working with a consultant can really help people if they want some hand holding step by step. If that's not the right fit for them, really just reaching out to some different agencies and attending their information sessions will start to get people kind of a lay of the land, and they'll get a feel for which places are right for them and which aren't. Like you were saying, there are some agencies that will work with all kinds of families, and that there are some that are more restrictive. So people have to find the places that are the best fit for them.
Well, I want to talk about that for just a minute, because how difficult is that? Because you look at all the factors that go into it, right? And you want to present as best possible so that you can grow this family. But at the same time, these agencies look, oh, you're single, maybe that's a notch against you. Oh, you're LGBTQ, couple, maybe that's a notch against you. Are there some hurdles that certain types of families, if you will, have to face?
Well, certainly they do have to find agencies that are willing to work with them, but many agencies are completely open regarding the kinds of families that they'll work with. So then what it comes down to is getting selected by the expectant mom. So I would say that most birth moms, maybe not the vast majority, but most are still looking for kind of that traditional married heterosexual couple. But over the years, more and more, I've seen that the expectant moms are more flexible with the kinds of families they'll consider, or sometimes even seeking out a non-traditional family.
So it is still hard, though. So it is still hard if you fall into a certain category. You're not on an equal playing field here.
It can be a little bit harder to get selected, right? But it's certainly not impossible.
So, yeah, not impossible, but the reality for so many people that are not in that heterosexual environment is that it's going to take longer, right? It might take longer. You might have to go through a couple extra hurdles.
On average, it can definitely take longer. And
so what is longer mean?
Yeah, what does that
mean? What's a timeline?
Well, that's sort of the magic question, and that varies based on a lot of things. My clients almost always adopt within a year. Our average is about 6 months. There are agencies that are a lot longer than that, but a lot of it comes down to the openness that the adoptive parents have in terms of what scenarios are they willing to consider. That makes a huge difference.
Now, are you referencing being a newborn or a domestic adoption versus international when you say flexibility here?
But also even within each of those, the flexibility, what does their budget look like? What are they comfortable with openness? What race children are they open to? All of those things make a difference.
When you talk about budget, how much does this cost? And you mentioned that it takes about a year. What happens within that year? Kind of walk us through that and the cost of it.
Sure. Well, the cost, unfortunately, adoption, unless you're going through, say, the foster care system, it is quite expensive. A typical agency adoption can run anywhere from mid 30,000s up to more than 50,000, although there are definitely tax credits and loans and grants and ways to help with that. But in terms of the process, the main thing that's going on during that time frame, once people are out there ready to be considered by expectant moms, so meaning that they've done their home study, they've signed up with agencies, they've created kind of their profile book that the expectant mom looks at, it's really just a matter of waiting for the different expectant moms to consider them and to get selected by the one who thinks that they're the right fit for her.
And there are agencies that work with low-income families in particular, because some people really want to have a family, they can't afford surrogacy, then they hear $30,000 to $50,000, like, oh my gosh, I can't afford adoption either. What are my alternatives? But there are agencies who are willing to work with low-income families as well.
There are, and there are agencies that will have sliding scale fees based on the family's income as well.
Understood. Hey,
There's
thank you so much,
a lot
Nicole.
to learn here. Thanks so much for your insight. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.